What's up, everyone? We're your CineNerds.
Hey, yo, I'm JP.
Hey, yo, I'm Ryan, since we're doing the Ayo.
Hey, yo.
What are we doing this
One
week?
more for the good guys.
Oh, boy. Someone's getting into the fucking... Are you referencing Warriors?
I mean, you say, hey, yo. Hey,
Oh,
yo.
no. I don't know what you're...
Scott Hall?
Yeah, no.
Not a wrestling fan?
No.
NWO?
No. I was thinking Warriors in my head, so... But anyways.
All right.
What are we getting into this week?
This week we are doing our top 5 religious horror films.
This one's going to get deep.
So before we dive into this, CineNerdsPodcast.com. Go to it, share it. All of our new episodes are on there, most recent episodes. All of our links to Spotify, Apple Podcast, our shop. You can go to our shop, buy a shirt. Also, we have our written review section on there. You can subscribe, get any updates from the website to your email. So, yeah, CineNerdsPodcast.com.
Sharing is caring. That's all I'm going to throw in there. So let's dig into this because I got a lot on this one. This one.
So normally we just have like a list, and we just did the top 5 most anticipated 2025 episode, and
I just had the name of the
literally
movies.
he just had a list over here of movies. Now he has a book written for this, so
that's page 1.
There's
another page.
This is insane to me that he has a book written like this.
This is Trauma 101 right here because I chose this topic for a reason. So I'm excited to dig into this one.
So yeah, and I looked over and I was like, holy fuck, I just have a list here, guy. What the fuck?
Do you want to see if you can actually win in rock, paper, scissors?
Yeah, we're going to rock, paper, scissors. That's our top 5 trend.
Yeah, so that way we figure out who's going first. So rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Damn, you won one. All right.
Finally.
All right. Then am I starting?
You start.
All right. I'm going to take the glasses off because this is all up close here. All right. So this first one, number 5, but my first one is a Korean film. It's called The Wailing, and it is available on Netflix, Peacock, Tubi, and Plex. The director is, I'm going to butcher this, Na Hong Jin. So essentially, we have a Korean film where we have a small village with a couple police officers, actually 3, and you've got a Japanese man who shows up. And then all of a sudden, sicknesses start happening amongst this village. Various people start getting sick, almost exhibiting zombie-like symptoms. They start to attack family members, loved ones, murder, these types of things. And they come to believe that this Japanese man who doesn't talk, they come to believe he's essentially a demon, and he has come to the village to essentially place a curse. It's almost like he's a demonic serial killer, if you will, collecting their souls, whatever the case, but he is knee-deep in this, and every time they arrive to a crime scene, he's somewhere in the background. But what happens to one of the police officers throughout this is the Japanese man catches on that he's catching on, and he does this disease, this curse to the police officer's daughter. The daughter is maybe 10, somewhere in that ballpark, and as she starts exhibiting the symptoms and talking the way she talks to her father, they start noticing these things happening. Now, we've talked about this on previous episodes, but pacing in this one is really hard. This is a 2.5-hour movie, so it is really slow. But if you know Korean or Japanese horror for that matter, the buildup is usually worth it. This one gets really interesting because there's almost 2 different religions coming in here. You've got Christianity with a priest who goes with him to this demon's house. Yes, the demon has a house with a little altar inside and everything. And then you've got almost, I don't know if it's still Christianity or if it's a Korean form of religion. I don't know what it is, but they essentially do these crazy ceremonial like exorcisms where they're dancing, they're hitting drums, they're screaming, there's sacrifice happening in it, where they're sacrificing the animal to expel the demon. It is so all over the place when it starts picking up and developing that you're very thrown. And what gets more interesting is as you see the one exorcist guy who's not the priest, he starts doing this like ritual, and when he's doing the ritual, he's pretending to like slice and dice and stab this wood thing, and the wood thing is essentially an altar that mimics this demon, and you see the demon start like thriving in pain in his house. He's not even near them. And just the way this unfolds and the connection between the dad and the daughter as he tries to rescue her and the demon and the priest, it's just a crazy battle all across the board, and I liked it.
The Wailing is one that I have not watched. And it's one that has been on my list for a while because I know a lot of people have said this is one of their favorite horror films of the past while. Like it's a lot of people really love this film, and it's on my list, but it's one that I didn't know much about. It didn't even really know what it was about. Just knew it was a Korean horror film that people have kind of been praising, and I have not watched this one yet.
And I'm going to be honest, I watched this one this week. So that one bumped ahead to that really quick. The religious horror category has a lot.
Well, for me, and it's kind of surprising I've not watched it because I love Japanese horror. I love Korean horror, and for whatever reason, this one has been on my watch list since it came out, and I've just not watched it for whatever reason.
Probably because it's 2.5 hours.
Probably.
But if you get past that first hour, it's one of those, and it starts moving then, and it gets better.
All right, so get to my number 5, and this one stars Richard Grant. You remember the last top 5 episode? I said, well, I'm going to be mentioning this guy again. So this stars Richard Grant, Julian Sands.
Which one is he?
The Warlock.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, Warlock, my number 5. Love this film. Absolutely, never seen it.
No, yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is an 80s watch for me. I haven't watched it since.
Oh, okay.
So this one and Prince of Darkness I need to revisit.
Warlock, I fucking love this film. I own this film on the 4K release that they released a couple years ago. Like, I have loved this film since it came out. Julian Sands was kind of become a horror icon in my eyes because of this film. And Richard Grant is such a great actor, and this is, he's so good in this film. And the film is essentially Richard Grant's character and Julian Sands is the Warlock, get moved through time from like colonial times, Salem witch trials times, to modern day, or what would be modern day in the 80s. And Richard Grant is trying to capture or kill this Warlock to get him, to not end the world, because he's looking for the pieces of the Necronomicon to basically bring the gates of hell open. It is such a fun movie. Some of the kills are so good, and Julian Sands is so sadistic as the Warlock in this film. Now the sequels, we can't say much about those, but the original Warlock film is so fucking good, and there's so much witchcraft in it and religious undertones, and especially there's scenes where they meets up with on a farm with like a old religious like Amish guy that's like, oh well, this is signs of blah 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 blah, and like it's just one of those that if you watch it, you're gonna be like, I get why this is on a top 5 list for me.
Okay. That's solid. And to give a little more context to that, like, I think the entire year plus that we've been doing this, JP has talked about the Warlock at least several times, at the very least.
Yeah,
like, he definitely loves this movie. So, all right. My number 4 was also a newer one for me that everyone kept raving about, and I had it on my list to watch, and I kept putting it off, and I finally pressed play. Saint Maud. So Saint Maud, have you seen this?
I have not seen this one either.
Okay. I'm going to give this as a comparison. Imagine Michael Douglas in Falling Down and Carrie. And then
I love both of those films.
And then throw in a lot more religion. And that's hard to say because Carrie's got a lot of religion going on. So, in fact, the director is a newer director named Rose Glass. she had another version or a different approach at it, but the backstory was too similar to Carrie, so she redid it. And what happens is you've got a nurse who has been let go from her job for something she did wrong. They just allude to it. They don't dig deep into that. She's become a private caregiver, and she's asked to go to, I don't know if she's a fashion person or if she's somebody who was a major thing at some time, but they have cancer. And so she's there to take care of this person. Mind you, she Maud has her cross on at all times. She's very religious. She even feels that God talks to her when she prays. We're already at that point, and what you see from there is the beginning of her bonding with this person more so than the person is with her that she's giving care to. And Maud starts crossing too many lines with her religious forcing her views on it and trying to save her person she's caring for's soul. That's the way she sees it in her eyes. It starts spiraling so bad that she starts to turn her back on God at one point because she is unsure that he's giving her incorrect direction. She's lost. She's confused. She starts committing sin. After she commits sin, she realizes that it was all for a greater purpose as she's praying, and God starts talking to her again, and it just unfolds from there. I don't want to tell anything more about this, but I will tell you this. It was so slow to start that I was put off initially, like many other movies we've talked about recently. But the last half hour was some of the best religious horror I've ever seen on a psychological level. And I thought it was fucking spectacular and perfect. And the fact that it's done on such a low budget with such a impressionable actor, or not impressionable, but a unique storyline, I was just very impressed by this. The main character, by the way, I'm going to butcher her name. It's Murfid Clark. She's also a Galadriel in Rings of Power. She was in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and His Dark Materials. And the funny thing about that is His Dark Materials is a retelling of the Golden Compass movie that we saw which is based on the books. That movie was overturned, or not overturned, it was attacked by the Catholic Church because they felt it was a direct attack at organized religion. So this one definitely went deep, and I loved it.
Yeah, I've not seen that one either. So, yeah, that's another one to add to my list.
Usually I'm saying that with
you.
you.
Usually I'm the one giving you. And actually, but the thing with my top 5 list this week is all of mine are actually older films, except for one. There is one new film. And they're all pretty mainstream. Well, mainstream in the horror community, I guess. So I didn't really throw too much obscure shit into mine. My number 4, though, it's going to be a 2-parter because same part of the series. And so the second little piece of this one is a little more obscure. So I've been deep diving into the Children of the Corn films.
Oh, okay.
So I'm putting Children of the Corn at number 4.
The original?
The original.
Great.
Original. Because that movie is just a good fucking movie. And obviously Isaac and Malachi make that film. They're so fucking... Now, the thing with this, if you watch the remake, the 2008 made-for-TV remake of Children of the Corn, what that movie's missing... In some ways, that made-for-TV version might actually be a little bit better than the original film in some ways, storytelling ways. Filming-wise and actor-wise, it is not. And the key point of that is because the kids that play Isaac and Malachi were so fucking creepy and insane in that original film.
I had the hardest time, as I got older, it added to the character to me, but I hated Isaac's voice.
Yeah.
His voice was so... I wanted to punch him.
So, the piggyback off of this, I've watched all 11 of these films.
He keeps telling us because of how much it pained him.
They're bad. They are bad. And when I say bad, you guys know I love bad films. Let me tell you, there's a lot of these from really specifically part 6 through part 5. Or part 6, part 6, the next 5 after part 6 are so painful to watch. Like 6, 7, 8, 9, we'll say 6, 7, 8, 9 are so painful to watch. However, in the midst of even all these that aren't that good, Part 4, Children of the Corn 4. Did you ever watch this one?
No.
Stars Naomi Watts, who is a fucking huge, like, Academy Award winning actress. Karen Black, which is a horror icon. This film, Part 4, is as good as the original. The kills are so much better. The kills are fucking amazing in Part 4. There is some shitty CGI here and there. You have that for our early 90s, early mid-90s fucking movie. You'll have, if you can look over some of the shitty CGI for the time period, the movie is fucking just as good as the original. So if you're a fan of Children of the Corn or just religious horror in general, Children of the Corn, skip the rest of them, jump to Part 4 after you've watched the original, and you're going to see two really
Just
fucking solid.
Skip to 4?
You can skip to 4. You can skip to 4. Now, there's good stuff in 2 and 3 you can watch, but if you want to watch two solid, good movies, just skip to 4 because you're not going to miss any storyline with 2 and 3 between the first one, and they're fucking good. Religious horror in a cornfield. Crazy kids.
All right. I didn't expect that one. So, I mean, I should have, knowing that you were watching through the series, but I almost put that on my list as well. Just the first one, just because that.
Because the original Children of the Corn with Isaac and Malachi, and you had Linda Hamilton. It was a great film.
I didn't want to put it on my list because it was too obvious. I almost put The Exorcist on here, but I just feel like that one's like, the standard. Like that's an amazing religious horror. My number 3 is your fault. We were doing, I forgot what episode we were talking about recently, and we brought up this movie. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we brought up this movie, and I had forgotten about this movie, and because I was thinking of The Faculty. But this movie
is so good. Though.
It is. But this movie is called Frailty, and this is Matthew McConaughey, Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton directed this too, which I didn't know until I was reading through it.
I think that was his directorial debut,
and a fucking amazing job he did.
Mm-hmm.
The depth at which this movie goes to achieve its end result is disturbing on so many levels. You've got a father who has 2 sons. He's just lost, or he recently had lost his wife. And because of that, he starts going through a depression, and he believes he's talking to God. And God has convinced him that he needs to kill the demons that are in this world. So God gives him a list, and he starts preparing his sons for this list. His sons are younger kids, and they start pulling in a person at a time. And when Bill Paxton puts his hand on these people's heads, supposedly the one son can see the demon as well, but not the other son. And Bill Paxton's character sees them. By the way, they call him Father Meeks, or Dad Meeks is his character. He doesn't have a formal name. But Bill Paxton, when he's putting his hand on the head, it gets insane, and you don't see that from our standpoint as the viewer until the end of the movie when they start digging into more of the details. All this comes to fruition because most of this movie is a flashback. Matthew McConaughey is telling an FBI agent about his father killing people and his brother killing people, but he's telling the FBI agent that he is his brother's name, not his name. He, in fact, is Adam. His brother is Fenton. Fenton was the one who was trying to, as they were growing up, he wanted to run away. He thought his dad was doing horrible things. He even is the one who ended his father. And it just progresses and builds from there, and you get this adult version of these two with this FBI agent, and how their lives changed after the father died. I strongly encourage anyone, if you're into these type of movies, if you like suspense, psychological, horror, thriller, whatever, this is definitely one that you got to see. It's quite amazing. So I'm happy I gave it the rewatch. I had forgotten about it until JP brought it up on the recent things, and this one fit perfectly into this little spiel. So I couldn't have been happier to get to see this one.
And Frailty it actually was originally my top 5. Okay. I took it off of my top 5 and moved it to an honorable mention just to put Warlock back in my top 5.
Okay.
And so Warlock is a JP film, more of a JP film, where Frailty is just a fucking good film, and the cast is great. Bill Paxton, Matthew McConaughey. It's a great film. So my number 3. This is the one film that is a newer film on my list. Everything else is from 70s, 80s, 90s. So this one is one that came out in the past, I think, 2 years. It's a relatively new film.
Have we reviewed this already?
We have not reviewed
Okay,
this
I thought
film.
it was something else. Go ahead.
And I guess this would be considered more of a thriller versus a horror film, but I think the movie is so good it doesn't matter. Nefarious.
Oh, yeah, it's excellent.
Nefarious is such a good
The fact that
religious
there's
film.
fucking 2 people in it and that's it, and then the ones, it's great. It's very well done.
If you've not seen Nefarious, it is Sean Patrick Flannery plays a
Boondock Saints.
plays a death row, a guy that's on death row. A therapist comes in to evaluate him the day that he's being put to death to make sure he is competent to be put to death. So Sean Patrick Flannery's character is possessed by a demon, and he is not trying to prove that he's crazy to get out from being put to death. He wants to be put to death. The demon wants the guy to be put to death. And the whole movie is just a conversation for the most part. It's a conversation between the therapist and the demon on death row. And the movie is so fucked up. There's so many fucked up things that happen in this movie. But then there's so many fucking amazing things that conversation-wise that happen in this movie. That
the manipulation from the demon is quite spectacular.
It's amazing that you can have an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute long movie that is nothing but an hour and a half conversation, and you not be able to take your eyes off the screen because it's so good.
So that's my big thing with this one. So I made the wife watch this with me because I was dying to see it when I saw the trailer for it. The fact, like you said, like this kind of goes back to Azrael for me, because the fact that you have a movie that has no dialogue and you have such serious emotions being conveyed through the actors' faces, that's always impressive to me. But this one, when you have to, it's just you and one other person that are the movie, and if you're not,
and no action,
there's no action. This is literally dialogue and facial expression, and the what they put into it to deliver and make you believe in what's going on is spectacular. Anything you ever thought about Flannery before this, Boondock Saints, whatever you've seen him in, it is nothing compared to what he did in this, because this was, I have to give him credit, it was very impressive. He nailed it, and when the demon kicks in, it gets real good.
I went to the theater and watched this film.
Oh, I didn't. I wish I could have.
I went to the theater and watched this film. Me and actually Waylon and I went and watched this film in the theater. And the thing with this, Waylon and I both walked out of the theater and said the same thing. Had this film not been, well, we said Sean Patrick Flannery should win an Academy Award for this film.
I agree.
However, in that same sentence, we said, but he won't even be nominated, and because it was done by a Christian studio.
It's a little messed up, but yeah.
But it's truth.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of truth in that statement when we said it.
Now, that movie, same with Exorcist. I'd love to see Exorcist if it ever came back to the theaters, but I'd love to go into a theater that had rumble seats for the sound effects and all the extras, because there's an eeriness to what you're hearing in the background around while they're having this conversation that it's haunting. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite movies of the year when this one came out. And yeah, it's religious horror. If you've not seen it, if you're just a fan of thrillers in general, you're going to love this film.
I completely agree with that and applaud that movie. That movie's great on so many levels. All right. So number 2 is out of my list. It's the most traumatic one for me. This one is going to take me back a minute. So this movie is called The Sacrament. Have you seen The Sacrament?
You have got a list of movies that I have not seen other than Frailty.
Oh my God, this one is fucking spectacular. So this is loosely based, should I say, off of the Jonestown Massacre. You've got a commune of people who have left the country, and they have all essentially sold off all of their all of their earthly possessions, all the things to bring the money to the commune and make this one guy who appears to be the head rich and wealthy. If you're familiar with the Jonestown Massacre, it's no surprise that there is Kool-Aid and it is drank. But there is a media outlet called Vice, and they use Vice in a fictional context. They have these two reporters who have heard the story about one of their friends' sister who's part of this commune, and they want to go talk to her. They want to interview her and ask her about her experiences there and talk to her and try and figure out this commune and what it's all about. So they go there, and right off the rip, they're already surrounded by these guys with guns. They're not feeling great. They feel like they're in a bad spot. Things progress, and it takes a very, very, very dark turn. Now, I am the TMI guy. I always joke with my friends and tell people too much about myself, and I'm okay with doing this. And I don't think it's a secret at this point. My wife grew up Jehovah's Witness, and she's got some very traumatic things. She left the Jehovah's Witnesses when she was 18 promptly, and she has no interest in looking back, and it's not a fond time in her life whatsoever. So that aside, though, when I was a kid, my grandmother got pulled into living in a commune, if you will, and it was with the actual Reverend Leroy Jenkins. So when you hear the Warcraft, or I don't think it's Warcraft it was either that or Magic, but where that dude goes, Leroy Jenkins, and he runs in and he runs it. That his gamer tag, his name is based off of Reverend Leroy Jenkins, and he was an evangelical preacher. He would do the "You are healed," and they would fall over and this and that. And it was so disheartening at my age at 10, seeing these older people who had ailments and illnesses being taken advantage of in this way. It was, I even as a 10-year-old, I'm like, what? No way. No, like I was like, this is not possible. And my grandmother stayed there for quite some time. And I don't know how much she donated or contributed, but he definitely got some money out of her.
Same with my mom. My mom was the same way.
Yeah, these guys who prey on people who are looking for stability, and that's the other thing with this movie in Sacrament, these people that are in the commune, because there's like, according to the number they throw out in the movie, they say like 700 people, but the amount of people that are there are all addicts, all recovering from something, all running from the outside world in some way, shape, or form to be part of something better. And that is true. I mean, true religious horror in my eyes. So this movie messed me up inside and out. The director's name is Ty West. He did an amazing job with this one. The only thing,
and that is the guy that did Pearl and X and Maxine.
Really?
Yeah, same director.
I did not know that.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he did the Maxine trilogy.
Okay. The only thing that might put off some people is, as we've discussed on previously, this is a cam footage style movie. However, it's not as shaky as like your Blair Witch or your Paranormal Activities. So in this, it's not as bad, but it is definitely a lot to watch. It is hard. There's a lot of awkward moments, like there's some kill scenes, there's some things happening, and as they happen, though, it's those uncomfortable moments that you almost find yourself looking away, but maybe it's because of what I've seen and experienced that I'm looking away. I don't know, but it was a lot. Yeah.
All righty. So we'll get to my number 2. And here's the thing with my number 2. I think any top 5 horror list, if you're doing a top 5 horror list and you don't have the Master of Horror on this list, then you've probably messed up. So you got to have a John Carpenter film. So my number 2 is Prince of Darkness.
Figures two of your movies I said I have to rewatch. So that's one of them. Okay.
So if you've never seen Prince of Darkness, it is essentially John Carpenter did what he calls his trilogy, like End of the World Doomsday trilogy kind of films, which the first one is The Thing. And in this trilogy, none of the movies actually are like sequels to each other. It's just a trilogy of films that end on a note that the end of the world is coming, basically, or could come. So the first one is The Thing. The second one is Prince of Darkness. And then the third one is Mouth of Madness. So Prince of Darkness is basically at the basement of this Catholic church. They find what the church had been protecting, which was this giant encased
Sarcophagus.
not sarcophagus, but kind of like tube that had this liquid in it. That the liquid, it was basically pure evil.
Okay.
And there's obviously a book there that is not the Bible, that's kind of telling about what this is, and they're trying to decipher and figure out, and they're to decode of everything to understand what all this actually is. But the liquid actually starts dripping out and infecting people and making them pure evil. And all the homeless around are basically turning evil. They surround the church, wanting this to get out, so they can basically bring the devil to earth, is essentially what is happening. The film it's end of the world religious, John Carpenter style. Alice Cooper's in it. He has a cameo. You have a lot of the cast from Big Trouble Little China. It's just some of the stuff they do in this film is just John Carpenter horror. I don't even know how else to describe it, but he's the master of it. I mean, he's called that for a reason. I mean, the kills are good, just the suspense, the tenseness of terror of being stuck in this building and surrounded, and you're seeing, if you try to leave, these people are butchering you. You can't. You're legit trapped. But then once you realize you're trapped in there, you're trapped with this evil in this building, and it becomes very, very dark in the fact that the ending. I don't want to give the ending away, but the ending doesn't go the way that you will hope. Just like his other movies in this trilogy, it doesn't end on a very happy note. So yeah, but basically the movie is about this secret of pure evil that the Catholic Church has been trying to hide, and the pure evil is essentially the Prince of Darkness, and to bring the devil back to earth, to bring the end times.
What freaks me out more than anything about that is that the theorized location of the Ark of the Covenant is in Africa, in a small church underground, and it sounds very similar to how you're describing that. So that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, and it's not like the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, it is. It's similar to what you're saying, but but the design of this liquid evil is in, it's almost like a giant glass tube that this is in.
So to me though, like that's like unknown powers. So it could be whatever's in the Ark of the Covenant. Could be good, could be bad. Could be. It's God's container essentially, but what comes out of it, I don't know. Maybe it's dependent on the individual, but creepy stuff. So if it's even real. You good for my number one?
Good for your number one.
I'm excited to watch Prince of Darkness right now. That's all I know. I'm pretty excited about that one.
He's going to go home and watch Prince of Darkness now.
I probably am. I'm not going to lie. My number one, I was so happy I stumbled upon this again. Through the years, I've watched it, I think 4 times total since I first saw it. It came out in 1990. It's a little gem called Jacob's Ladder. And this was directed by Adrian Lynn, and Tim Robbins is the main character in this. And you've seen? Okay, I'm just making sure.
I have seen Jacob's Ladder
4 times,
and even seen the remake.
There's a remake?
There is a remake.
I did not know there's a remake.
The remake is not as good as the original.
I imagine not.
Yeah, it's not.
This is superb storytelling, but also confusing. I've watched it, like I said, 4 times now, and every time I've come away with a different view of it. But long and short, you've got a person who is fighting in Vietnam. He gets stabbed by a bayonet, and when he gets stabbed by the bayonet, he goes unconscious. And he wakes up on a subway train, and he's in a mailman suit, and he's just going about his day. He's returning home after working. The way that this pans out, the way it starts unfolding, A bunch of different things present themselves. Any one of these possibilities. There's even alternate dimensions happening here. They're theorizing in some instances. The Army experimented with a drug called BZ on him and his platoon was one of the thoughts that made them all have psychological effects. There is a mystic tells him while she's reading his hand, his fortune, that he's already dead. He has hallucinations consistently throughout the movie, alternate realities. It could even be purgatory. Meanwhile, throughout this whole film, he's seeing demons. He doesn't know if it's in his head, if it's fake, if it's not. And one of his paths that he's walking, because there's multiple paths he's walking as this whole movie is going on. One of them is he's trying to figure out what's happening to him, why he's starting to see things. One of them, his son is dead. His son was hit by a car, and it's something he brought home after coming back from Vietnam. One of them he's still married to his first wife, and the other one he's not with his first wife, and he's with a woman named Jezebel. So and in the movie too, you've got his son's name was Gabe or Gabriel. He's Jacob, Jezebel. There's numerous biblical names associated here. But from start to finish, it goes so deep in this man's fall or ascension that you almost want to think that he's going crazy, he's losing his mind. But then one of his friends is killed by a car explosion. And when he goes to the funeral, he sees his other platoon mates, and they all start talking about how they're experimented on and piecing things together. And then he starts thinking, okay, there's validity to this. And he has to continue on with that exploration. But as he does that, he starts seeing these demon things. People are telling him he's already dead. Everything keeps unfolding, but while it's unfolding, you don't know if there's different things happening, if he's on drugs or it's messed with him, or if he's in purgatory and he's just waiting to figure out what's going on. All of that said, I'm going to read one of the quotes that's in the movie from a doctor that he's talking to. The doctor says, "The only thing that burns in hell is the part of you that won't let go of your life. Your attachments, your attachments, your attachments, but they're not punish." I can't read this. They won't let go. Oh, sorry. Let's try this again. The only thing that burns in hell is the part of you that won't let go of your life. Your attachments are here, but they're not punishing you, he said. They're freeing your soul. So basically it's you're trying to let go of whatever it is so you can move on. So, because they started the movie with him being stabbed by this bayonet, and the end of the movie, I don't mind sharing this because it's a 1990 film now, and you should absolutely see this and try and translate it how you would like. But the end of the movie is he's pretty much let go of everything, and he's walking up a flight of stairs into light with his son, holding his son's hand, who he believes was passed away. So he's let go of these things finally. He's finally given in, and he's moved on. So this whole movie takes place with him trying to get from death to the afterlife. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's amazing. I like how everything streams together. But again, every time you watch it, you're going to get a different angle out of it. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's one that you can interpret it different ways every time you watch it. And it's one that I've not revisited in a while. I probably need to revisit it, but there's a lot of iconic imagery in this film that just kind of got popularized because of this film, and Tim Robbins he was kind of known as a comedic actor before this film, and then when he did this film, it was like, fuck, this guy can act.
It's so intense. It's so surreal. His eyes and his eyes turning red and looking at different people, and at one point he's paralyzed and he gets wheeled into this doctor's place, and the doctor's putting a needle in his forehead telling him he's dead. Like, there's so much happening. It's so I don't know. It's seriously an amazing movie. That's all.
All right, so my number one. And my number one is the most popular one that you're going to find. And not only is it one film, it's 3 films. It's a trilogy. Exorcist 1, Exorcist 2, The Heretic, and Exorcist 3. These films, I fucking love the Exorcist film. I love now hear me out.
I said it was the standard before. That's why I didn't include it.
I'm not a fan of the prequel. I'm not a fan of that crappy film we got like a year or so ago.
We disagree on this. We've already talked about it.
Yeah. What is that one called now? I can't
It was
remember.
just the Exorcists.
Okay, yeah.
Because there's multiple Exorcists and different.
I'm not counting that one. Specifically, The Exorcist, Exorcist 2, Exorcist 3, they are so good. Linda Blair, the shit that she went through in that original film was insane. The practical effects in that film for the time were insane. The story, it was the film terrified people when it came out. Now, by today's standards, is that movie as scary as people made it out to be back then? No, but it was a different time. People had never seen a film like that, and that film really set the standard for what we see today in those type of possession horror films. The second one, to me, and a lot of people hate on part 2, The Heretic, because they don't like it. I love The Heretic. I think it's beautifully shot. The cinematography in part 2 is fucking phenomenal. I think it's some of the best cinematography out of any film, period. The cinematography in part 2 is that good, especially with all the stuff in Africa, all the shots of the imagery there. It is so fucking good. Part 3 just concludes the fucking story, and it's so good with George C. Scott taking over the main role. You also have the voice of Chucky.
Why am I having a brain fart every time with this guy's name?
Brad Dourif.
Yep.
Who is playing the main possessed by a demon character in the film. And some of the kills and some of the creepiness in part 3, God, it's terrifying. Some of the imagery.
It's been a minute since I watched it. Is there? Do they do any of those like hidden flashes like in the first one?
A little bit,
Okay.
but there's a lot of stuff like just the imagery alone of it's all in the hospital, and some of the imagery in part 3 is just so fucking scary,
Dude. So we talked about this in another episode where I said I feel like kids are desensitized. They don't. I was the Skeleton Crew episode because I was saying because of flashy effects and the CGI and all that stuff. Now apply that to the horror side of things too, and oh my God, my daughters, they're in their 20s now, but when they were littles and I was letting them start watching scary movies, the first 2 movies I presented to them was the original Night of the Living Dead and The Exorcist, and these girls. That's it, Dad? That's all you got? Okay, all right. So my dumbass, I brought in the remake of Dawn of the Dead because the zombies were brought in that one, and I was like, let's go. I'm going hard on this one. And these little girls, blankets over their face, eyes wide. All of a sudden, they were scared. But yeah, the fact that the original Exorcist still doesn't genuinely place some kind of discomfort in some of these kids, it boggles my mind because it's such a well-written, scary piece.
To me, the discomfort in part 3 it's intense. I mean, there's so much imagery, intense scenes. There's a scene very specifically with the nurse going in and out of the rooms, and you just know something fucked up's going to happen to her, and it's so intense. And then it's like, nothing's going to happen. Then all of a sudden, something happens and you're like, fuck. But all 3 of those films, they set the standard for not just religious horror but horror films, and they really set the standard for possession films. But it falls into a religious film because it has to do with possession, it has to do with demon possession, it has to do with the church, with the Catholic Church, with doing the exorcism. There's so much in this, and Linda Blair is, man, she was young. She was young when they did some of that fucked up shit that they did in that first film, and even by today's standard, I don't care. Maybe it's not terrifying in today's standards, but it's still a fucked up film with some of the shit they do, even by today's standards. I mean, there's a scene where Linda Blair is stabbing herself in the crotch with a crucifix, screaming "fuck me." There is some fucked up scenes.
Another word in there, but we won't go. Yeah.
Yes, but it's there's a lot of fucked up shit in those films.
That's a solid number 1. I kind of figured, like, I'm glad I didn't pick that and put that in my list though, because I figured you'd have it somewhere in there, and you had it right where it makes sense.
So honorable mentions. Do you have any honorable
Yes,
mentions?
I do.
I've got a few.
I'm
so.
forgetting one of them that is pissing me off because I thought about it early in this episode when we were recording, but for the life of me, it's gone. So I wrote down the other ones. The first one I was to talk about was Stigmata.
I started to put that as an honorable mention.
Yeah, that's a solid one for me. Patricia Arquette does an amazing job in this movie. And what's his name? Who's our guy? Who's the priest?
I'm trying to remember who's the priest in it.
It's like isn't it Al Pacino?
No. And Stigmata?
No, he's got that look though from that time. It's not Pacino. It's he's a well-known actor.
Gabriel Byrne. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, that one I saw that one in the theater when I was a kid, and that one sat with me pretty well. I was like, that was done well. I like that because to your point though, the possession thing, it's so overdone. So when you do get a good version of it, I try and hold on to those.
Yeah.
So.
And Stigmata is one that I started to put on an honorable mention, but it was one of those that I haven't seen in so long. I was scared to put it on it because I was like, I don't remember how good it really is at this point. Does it hold up?
I think so.
But I that's why I left it off. I put Azrael. As an honorable mention.
I figured he loved that movie.
I love that movie. We just reviewed it, so it's a religion. It's actually what spawned this episode.
It is.
So I had to bring it on as an honorable mention.
For sure. My next one would be, and this one is long overdue for a rewatch, but I still have the feeling in my stomach after I got done watching it. So that's why I put it in honorable mentions. The Serpent and the Rainbow.
Yeah, that one's a good one.
Yeah,
I haven't watched it in a while.
So that one
it's
dabbles into Christianity and voodoo and the whole bit, and it's fucking intense. It's so good. And I just remember the moments where I was floored and thrown back in disbelief, and so I appreciated that.
So my next honorable mention, and this is one for my number 5, I went back and forth between Frailty, Warlock, and this film. So this was one that I almost put into my top 5. Carrie. Carrie is such an iconic movie. And not the remake, not the made-for-TV remake, not the modern-day remake. The original Sissy Spacek Carrie. Sissy Spacek is such... She nailed that role.
Dude.
Absolutely nails
the
that
sound
role.
effect when she's using her powers and she just looks over at it. Like as she's looking over and focusing the powers on the people who have fucked her over, her eyes, unforgettable.
Yeah.
Unforgettable moment.
She's so iconic.
You have to watch Saint Maud. You're gonna love it.
So yeah, Carrie.
Cool. My next one would be Pet Sematary. Because that factors in a big way. That's actually a couple different religions coming together.
So we're throwing a lot of Stephen King in here. It sounds like.
Stephen King's great. There's just no way around it. He knows how to push appeal. I mean, if you really want to get into it, I could have put it was a short series, but the Stand. I mean, the Stand is iconic.
I actually almost put The Stand in my honorable mentions.
I have not watched the remake.
I didn't like it as good.
Okay,
but I do have it in my Vudu, and I was. Actually just rewatched The Stand, the original, and because it popped up on Vudu for sale like a month or so ago, and I bought both of them for $5 each. So I spent $10 for both series. So I rewatched the original, and I was going to rewatch the remake, and I haven't got to the remake yet since I wanted to kind of do a comparison, to see, But I have watched the remake, and I liked it, but I didn't like it as good. But I kind of want to do it side by side now.
I don't have to say anything else about Pet Sematary, but I play with mommy, I play with daddy, and now I want to play with you. That shit fucking
there was some crazy shit in there.
Horrifying.
The Prophecy.
Holy shit, I'm a fucking jackass.
The Prophecy, because that first Prophecy movie is so fucking good. So good. So many iconic scenes.
I made another list. I completely just forgot about until you said that. That was my number 1 on my other list.
And the thing is one of the best, the Viggo Mortensen devil in that is so
Imperial.
amazing.
He's Puriel. I actually, when I was building my own, I'm a real big dork, I'm sorry, but MySpace back in the day, I had pages for like fan fiction, and I had a whole Sith character named Darth Puriel based off of the fallen angel in Prophecy. I love everything about Gabriel, everything about the Prophecy storyline, how it unfolds, how it's told. It is literally a beautiful and chaotic version of how the angels perceive humanity and vice versa. And god damn it if it isn't one of the best lines, and I'm going to butcher this, I don't remember how exactly said. Yeah, when he goes, shh.
Remember, way back before you were born, you were crying, and I just went, shh.
And that's how you got that dent on your lip. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
But holy shit, was that moment so powerful with Christopher Walken. And when he's an archangel named Gabriel, and with Christopher Walken's voice, that's sexy shit.
I mean,
right there.
I named my son after the Archangel Gabriel. So
my extra son's middle name is Gabriel as well. So yeah.
Oh, that was mine. So you got another one?
I do. So this one, we were talking about this beforehand. I didn't include this one in my list because I didn't think it was necessarily horror religious. Definitely religious, but not horror. But The Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino. This movie,
I consider it a horror.
Yeah, I mean it's got its elements.
If I put Nefarious in a top 5 on this, then that is horror.
Fair, very fair. Yeah, this movie literally was one of those movies I like watched with some friends, and I went into it not thinking it was gonna be anything wonderful. I thought it was gonna be another overdone Hollywood movie, just over the top, unnecessary, that type thing. And I watched it, and I came out of that, I was like, that is a fucking superb movie. So yeah.
I got 2 more. How many? You done or?
I'm sure I'll think of some more. Go
Okay,
ahead.
well, we'll throw this one in here because another iconic and probably my favorite portrayal of Lucifer, Constantine.
That's an excellent one.
And
It's definitely a good one.
The portrayal, and I can never remember that actor's name, but he's been in John Wick. He was in John Wick 2 as the Russian guy at the beginning.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And he's been in a Linneman video. Like, he's been in multiple movies, but he played his version of Lucifer in Constantine. Top. Like, I want a whole movie of just that.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
And Gabriel in that.
Gabriel in that is great.
Fucking phenomenal too. So and I prefer actually how they portrayed that, because that actress is very gender neutral, if you will.
Yeah.
And angels are that too. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I love Constantine, and I mean, Constantine's based on a comic, DC comic. I'm a fan, and so I'm a fan of Constantine in general. Anyway, so
Okay.
you got another one?
No, I'm so mad at myself, honestly, that I fucked up
Dropped
my
the ball
list.
on the
And
Prophecy.
Dude, Prophecy's like epically amazing. If you have not seen the Christopher Walken movie, The Prophecy, it might not. I don't know how well it holds up at this juncture, but it is a fucking amazing
It's awesome.
movie.
It's awesome. I mean, Viggo Mortensen,
Yeah,
Eric Schultz.
without a doubt.
I mean, yeah, it's good. So I do have one more honorable mention. I'm surprised that this wasn't one of the, on your honorable mentions for religious horror. Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight.
That's a solid choice. I didn't think about that, but that one, if we ever get around to the soundtrack episode,
Great soundtrack.
I will have that on.
Yeah,
it
it's a
for sure.
great
That is a
soundtrack.
great soundtrack.
Billy Zane in that movie is so good.
I'm sending you my picture I have with Billy Zane. That's gonna go right into this.
Yeah.
He's a rad dude.
Billy Zane in that movie is so good, and even like we actually have Demon Knight samples in between songs on the AKC tour that we've been using for the past couple tours. So there's actually we're fans of Demon Knight. So yeah, that one's a solid movie.
It is. It's definitely a good movie.
All right. Do you have any recommendations? I mean, we've done honorable mentions. We've done our set of top 5. I've got a recommendation.
Well, why don't you go first, and I'll pull up what I've been watching.
So, this is one that came out this past year. that everybody kept telling me to watch, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll watch it. And I kept putting it off, I finally watched it this week, so I'm gonna recommend it because it was actually really good. It was Lisa Frankenstein.
My wife said that. My wife told me that I needed to check that out.
You know, the thing is, this is the thing with it. It feels like this generation's Frankenstein meets Heathers. And that's kind of the vibe I got from it. And I'm a big fan of Heathers. So the aspect of having that kind of vibe, with this kind of film, with Lisa Frankenstein, with the creature, they call the character they call the creature, and which is was played by, and I can't remember his name, but the guy that plays Jughead in Riverdale is who plays the creature.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the main actress that plays Lisa.
He was one of the twins on Sweet Life.
Yeah.
I had to watch Sweet Life of Zack and Cody for my kids growing up.
Yeah. And the interaction between those two is very romanticized, and the killings that they're doing, which is where the Heathers vibe for me comes from. It's very romanticized, and it's a fun movie. I enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, but this beautifully shot. There's a lot of imagery that the director does, that I was like, wow, this is actually really awesome. Beautifully shot. It's a good story. It's not as I thought it was just going to be really girly, and it kind of is. I mean, it's kind of geared towards maybe a young female, but it's not a bad movie for anybody. It's a fun solid film.
Fuck you.
What you got?
Chris Barnes is a piece of shit.
Well,
No, I'll tell you later. So recommendations. So I already told JP I'd like to actually do a full episode on this one, and I feel it's worth it. He got me interested in watching the series, and I watched the series, and I could not be happier that I watched the series. But Superman and Lois.
oh yeah,
I just
Yeah.
crushed through all 4 seasons of that.
Oh, so you finished?
I finished it.
Oh.
And I'll tell you what.
One of the best endings of any
Best
series.
endings, best way to bring it to closure. Got everything we wanted for this version of Superman. Got everything you needed in that story. They told it from a personal element. You really were vested in the character. You were vested in his family. You were vested in his life. It's not just there's not like 20 million people doing too much coming from out of nowhere. It's just enough. And I thought the portrayal of Doomsday was spectacular.
And Bizarro.
Oh my God. And Bizarro is that is Doomsday. But
Yeah.
anyways, Bizarro, by the way, is my favorite DC villain, period. So I was super pumped about that. I would like to see him be a little more distorted, but the way they delivered it was perfect.
Yeah.
And then my other it's another series, is Agatha All Along. I did watch that.
I had fun with it. Now, night and day comparisons to what you just mentioned with Superman and Lois to Agatha All Along, but it was a fun series.
Night and day, but fun series. So those are the 2 things I've been watching. So check them out if you get a chance.
Yeah, I recommend both of those. And Superman and Lois, I can't recommend that enough. Tyler Hoechlin, or however you say his name, favorite Superman since Reeve.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm hoping for, and that's what I got out of the trailer of Superman. We talked about that in the last episode, and I'm hoping that Gunn took a page out of that book, because the way that they portrayed Superman in Superman and Lois was damn near perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't be happier.
He was
with
great, and I liked him when he first came in on the Supergirl series, because that version of Superman came in on Supergirl first, and I was praising Tyler in Supergirl, and then he got his own show with Superman and Lois, and I was like, he's so much better than Henry Cavill.
Yeah,
I mean, so much better. So,
well, each have their own
different versions.
Yeah,
but in my opinion, better.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right, so That's our top 5 episode. We've hashed out a lot.
We've hashed out a lot.
And went a little longer than what we've been doing, but you know what?
But well worth it. There's a lot to dig into with religious horror, and
Yeah.
And it takes some of us way back. So hopefully you guys are liking this so far in 2025, and we'll keep this going.
CineNerds podcast.com. Check it out. Share with your friends. Follow us.
Sharing is caring.
All right.
Later, guys.
Later.